Hi everyone, Nick Smith here. We're going to take a look at the additional row feature within Lighting Reality. The, um, the situation, I had a phone conversation with a user the other day who got quite an unusual scenario to set up. And I was conscious of the fact that I'd not had done a video to cover it, so I thought I would do so. So the additional row feature is designed so that you can do different things. Normally, if you were setting up a dual carriageway, as we've got here, you would do an opposite arrangement, or you would do a twin central arrangement and design it. But the particular situation that came up is that the user had got an opposite arrangement, but they'd got different height columns on both sides of the road, on opposite sides of the road. So he wasn't sure how they could work out whether the LED solution that they were proposing was going to work. So we had a little discussion about it, and I made a recommendation to him, which was as follows. So we set up the road as it is. Obviously, if you travel left to right, you've got your 10 meter columns on the opposite side of the road, and if you travel right to left, you've got them on the side that you're on. So it doesn't really much matter which way you set them up, but I've got a 10 meter column here. I've used an old lantern, an SGS 203. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that we're converting this in two phases. So we've worked out a scheme. Perhaps we'd have a slightly lower maintenance factor for that, whatever it happens to be. Now, what I worked out before is that this solution here actually works and gives me the class that I'm looking for based on opposite arrangement. But what we're going to do is set it up as a single-sided right arrangement, and then go into the additional row feature and add a single-sided left arrangement at 8 meters. So there's a couple of ways that we can look at this. Firstly, we can link the spacing of the columns on both sides of the road so that they are the same. So as you increase the spacing or decrease the spacing on the road, you will adjust both columns in terms of spacing. Now, generally in this type of situation, you've probably already got existing columns, and you just want to retrofit a lantern onto them and make sure that it actually works. So we can, because these two are completely separate, we can set up a separate lantern, and he was using a Luma, although I can't quite remember which one he was using. We'll just I'll stick a lantern in, and we'll just go down and try and find something that works. So we'll mount the lantern horizontal, 1.5 meter setback, so it's the same on both sides. Lantern mounted post top, and single-sided left. Now we can use a different maintenance factor to the main carriageway. So if you feel that's an appropriate maintenance factor, then so be it. 0.83 would be about right, I would have thought. So what we can now do is go down and look for a particular solution that works based on this spacing. Obviously, we don't want to optimize the design because we already know that the columns are at 48 meter centers. So we can just go down and try and find a solution that works for this particular scenario. Actually, you could optimize it, I suppose. It might be a bit quicker. We can then go through and just find a solution that works for this particular project. Now, whilst it's busy doing that, I'll just talk about a couple of other things that we've got going on here. Firstly, the offset facility. What we've assumed in both cases is that both columns start at the same location, longitudinally up and down the road. But we can offset that so that if you have a column that's on the opposite side of the road, but it's not directly the opposite, then we can offset the columns as well. One of the things to bear in mind when we do calculations like this is that we're not just taking account the two columns that are on either side of the grid. There's a whole bunch of other columns that we take account of in terms of calculations. So what we're taking account of is, if I remember rightly, it's 3 times the mounting height one way. It's detailed in EN 13201 anyway, the number of columns that we would take account of. So we can eventually go through and find a solution that works. In this case, it's maybe I've chosen the wrong lantern, I don't know. But that's not the purpose of what we're trying to achieve here. So we'll go with that one for the sake of argument. It's falling down longitudinal uniformity. So that's what I wanted to really show you is how we can use this additional row feature in situations like that. But we've also got some, we can create some unusual situations in terms of layouts. So let's say for the sake of argument we've got a roadlet with 10 metre opposites, and what we want to be able to do is to hang a lantern off the back of that column but pointing the other way, so that we can go with an opposite reversed arrangement, so at maybe 5 metres, let's say. And what we can do is we can then use that to light the cycle path that's behind the column, for example. And then we can do some obscure arrangements, so we could have a single-sided left arrangement to light the carriageway, and then on the opposite side of the road we might have a single-sided right arrangement, but at a much lower mounting height. Perhaps, for example, you might have an overhead line that runs down this side of the road, and because of that you can't use the same mounting height columns. So there's a whole load of unusual scenarios that you can do with this situation. Going back to the opposite with the lantern hanging off the back, one of the things that's really important to check in this situation is your threshold increments, because if you've got any kind of a bowl on this lantern at the back, with LEDs it's much less of a problem, but you can find that this lantern here that's hanging off the back can create huge amounts of glare, which in itself will potentially cause problems. As you can see, by hanging that lantern off the back, it's actually affected the longitudinal uniformity down the road. So when we had a solution that worked here at 48 meters or whatever it was, by hanging a lantern off the back of that, it was at 42, wasn't it, that we found it worked. By hanging the lantern off the back of that, what you can see here is it's now affected longitudinal uniformity in lane 1. So that lantern that's hanging off the back is now throwing light into this carriageway and affecting the longitudinal uniformity of this lane. So it's something that's always worth taking a look at, and that's what the additional row feature is all about. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this useful today. If you like the video, if you can click the like button below, that would really be useful. If you have any comments or questions, please put those in the area below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. If you have any requests of areas that you want me to cover, then please put it in the comments section below. You can tweet me nicksmith1246 on Twitter. You can email me support@nicksmithassociates.com. And lastly, if you subscribe to the channel just below as well, then any future videos that I produce, you will get an automatic notification of those videos. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you